So welcome live this Halloween night to the first ever TV Ghostwatch.
Who are you? What's your name?
Sarah? Sarah?
We're gonna start with a public apology.
A public apology?
Yeah, I want to start this episode with a public apology because if you're British and you're listening to this, I'm sorry. Because we're gonna make fun of you a lot. But that's okay. Because I think like the UK and America are the two countries you can make fun of without any repercussions. You know?
That is kind of true, yeah. The UK and America. I feel like the UK is a little more, like...
okay to make fun of?
Yeah, no, like a little more, like, not okay than America is. But you can do it without repercussion.
The way I see it is, like, pretty much every country has a day dedicated their independence from Britain. So I think it's okay to make fun of them.
That is true, yeah.
we have a whole day where we get fucked up and party and shoot guns to get away from them. But I don't want to undermine the great things that Britain has to offer, like the Great British Bake Off.
I haven't watched that yet. You guys talk about it a lot. I gotta try it.
Yeah, that's all my knowledge on Britain right now is from Great British Bake Off and Mr. Bean. Okay. So keep that in mind, you know?
Oh, God.
I could tell you how to make a savory tart.
What the hell was that?
A savory tart.
A savory tart?
A savory tart. Tell you how to not get a soggy bottom.
A soggy bottom.
Yeah. Your crisp has to have a snap.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
You gotta have the
snappy crisp.
So
I get you.
So for whoever's listening from the UK, I'm sorry, but you're very funny. So, Brad, I like how I completely just destroyed any sincere apology.
That's okay. We do apologize. We are going to make fun of British people and the way they talk. And I know I'm going to make a reference to the Beatles at some point. Just because I think it's funny.
No, the Beatles are funny guys.
They are hilarious.
That guy's got a little ass.
Wait, which guy?
The main guy. You know, there's
Paul
like
McCartney?
that naked picture. Yeah, he's got a little tiny butt.
A naked picture of Paul McCartney?
Dude, no, it's like him and what was his girlfriend's name? That Asian girl?
Oh, you're talking about John Lennon.
Yeah, him.
Okay.
He's got the Hank Hill butt. Look it up.
Oh, I do. I think I know what picture you're talking about, but I don't remember what John Lennon's butt looked like.
He got a little butt.
He got a little asshole.
Little butt. I don't know about asshole. I didn't look that deep into it, but I didn't go computer enhance. Show me John Lennon's rectum.
Ew.
Well, the subject of this episode is Ghostwatch, which is a very controversial film and was swept under the rug for many reasons. So Brad, you were the one, you were the lead, you were frothing at the mouth to cover this.
Yeah, I was masturbating thinking about doing this on the podcast. I was like, fuck. Oh my God, I'm so excited. You know what I'm saying?
All right, and we're ending this episode right now.
No, but yeah, I was really excited because, for one, I've heard about this thing for years. I never ended up watching it ever. Mostly because they didn't know what the hell it was, and I was like, that seems stupid. But like, I've heard more about it recently, and I just thought it would be really interesting. And it sounded like something that would be right up my alley, because like, Dax, you know I like Lake Mungo,
Yeah, you like the mockumentary type
right
kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then I think once I found out how subversive it was and how like just kind of like fuck you to the BBC audience it was.
Yeah.
It was
it's very funny in the way it treats the viewers.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially for its time.
Yeah. Yeah, but so then I guess I'll start with the BBC.
Big black cock.
Yes, the big black cock. In case no, you don't know out there somehow. I feel like everybody knows what the BBC is. But it's like this. It's an institution of British television. It's like how people get their news and entertainment. It's like kind of was an all-encompassing thing. And back in the early 90s, mostly pre-internet, the internet may have been around, but it was not widespread. Computers were not even that widespread. So really, the big way that people got their news and got updated things about the world was from TV, by turning on their television and probably watching the BBC. It's like it was like the ABC equivalent of like of America. Like they're pretty much the same type of thing, and like families would tune in all the time. One big event that I think put a lot of trust in the BBC was the Gulf War, which happened in like 91.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the creation of Doctor Who. That was on BBC.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the Gulf War.
Yes, the Gulf War. But like the Gulf War, yeah, and that was something that was heavily covered on the BBC, and it was something that audiences would kind of tune into, and just to get all the latest information. So it was like back then, in the pre-internet age, it was all about everybody trusted what was on their TV. It was like, whatever I'm seeing on TV is gospel. There wasn't like this internet thing going on where you could instantly look up information, see any kind of thing you wanted, see any kind of perspective, and like instantly like be able to debunk something. It was just like,
and I mean, now more than ever, you see so many videos. Like half of the TikToks are like all staged, like they're all fake.
Oh yeah.
So like now, like us as someone who's been like on the internet, we see a video and our first thought is that real? like we question it immediately.
Right, yeah. And in a way I almost kind of miss that, like being, it's like kind of like blind trust in authority, basically.
The naive wonder.
Right, yeah. It's kind of like it would be a nice world to live in, but I also appreciate the amount of information we have. It's just now I feel like it all makes us paranoid about anything we're consuming.
Can you imagine if we all felt that way and like Tucker Carlson was in the 90s? And he's like telling us that M&Ms aren't hot anymore.
Yeah.
And we're like, what? They were hot?
That would have blown people's minds back then.
They're changing the M&M's clothes. I can't have sex with them. You can't either.
Oh god.
I don't want to have sex with them.
So yeah, but like the BBC, it had a ton of pull. It was an institution. Everybody trusted them and kind of loved it. So that's kind of where Ghostwatch fits into the picture. And it came about in like the early 1992, I believe, in the early months of 92.
First, when you told me like let's watch like Ghostwatch, I was expecting early 2000s, like Zach Baggins kind of stuff.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Like clearly staged. Like, oh bro, you touched me, bro. You know, some guys like on the other side behind the camera, like banging on a wall. They're like, oh, what was that?
I know.
And then when I was like, oh, this is from 92, I'm like, this predates like even the concept of that. Oh
yeah, it's interesting.
So I was quickly intrigued.
Yeah, it's so bizarre, and like the story behind it is kind of bizarre, but it's basically the whole thing is thought of by Stephen Volk. And he's kind of a writer. He was writing for the BBC at the time, and he was trying to get this 6-part. It was just a straight drama series of like, it was about like ghosts and paranormal things happening. And it was centered around this family, but BBC wouldn't approve it. They're like, yeah, we don't want to do a 6-part series. But they're like, but we have this hour-and-a-half time slot on Halloween night this year. That do you think that your idea could fit into this time slot? And so then literally he's just like, okay, there's no fucking way I'm going to fit in 6 parts of a series into an hour and a half.
Condense 6 hours basically to an episode and a half.
Right. Yeah. And but then he's like, let me think about this, because the 6th episode, the final episode, takes place in this house where a news station comes and they come and set up this thing to like investigate whatever ghostly stuff has been going on. And then from there he was kind of like, oh, well, this might be a good opportunity to actually do something pretty creative here, because the BBC is like an institution for news. Wouldn't it be cool if we kind of made it look like it was really live and it was like really happening?
Right.
And so basically he pitched that idea, and the producers at the BBC were like, hey, yeah, that sounds great. Like, that sounds pretty cool, right? Yeah, so then he ended up writing that, and he figured out from there it was like they had always been doing these, like, it's called like the Watch series, for lack of a better term, on BBC, where it was like Crime Watch or like Hospital Watch, or like this whole series of these like live shows where it'd be examining like some kind of thing. Like if it was Hospital Watch, you'd be like inside of a hospital.
So it's kind of like have you ever seen the movie Wreck?
No, I have not.
It's like the found footage. It's actually very similar, probably inspired by Ghostwatch, where it's like a news crew that's like spending the night at like a firehouse for like firefighters.
Oh.
And then they get a call, and it turns out like this apartment's been overrun by these like, I guess, zombies. But yeah, it's very similar, where they're just like, oh, let's see what the firemen do all day.
Yeah, and I guess that might have been cool back then for people to watch. And he was like, why not frame it as one of those things? But like people will think it's just like, oh, this is about, we're like watching like ghost hunters or like looking for ghosts sort of thing. And so that's kind of where that idea stemmed from. And then from there then he really wanted to fill out the cast with people who were actually like players in the BBC world at the time.
Yeah, like the host guy, he's like, I've seen him before. He's like a big guy.
Yeah, and they got him to agree, and like I think he was really the linchpin that got the whole thing moving, because once they got him to agree, he was like a very well-known figure at the time. And they even got him to play himself in the special. And the whole goal as well was to get a lot of these known people to just play themselves, because that lends to the credibility of whatever's going on. So you'll see like the husband and wife in this, they're literally just playing themselves. The wife, she had been in shows like Hospital Watch or Crime Watch. She had appeared in those already. So then,
like a reporter.
Yeah.
Type person.
Yeah. Once they got her to agree, they're like, oh wow, this is great. Like, she'd be a perfect fit for what we're trying to do here. And then it's like a very ambitious idea, so then he had to look for a very ambitious director, and he got this woman named Leslie Manning, and unfortunately she's not done a lot of stuff since, I think, which is kind of horrible, but she was the one who really put this all together. And she, hearing her describe, like the thought process behind of like, how am I going to make this look convincing to the audience?
Right.
How am I going to make this look like an actual live show, and like making it look like BBC era, like live shows like that, like Hospital Watch, like Crime Watch, was like a really big, a big goal for her. But yeah, I feel like we should just get into what it actually is. Maybe a little bit about the plot and like, what we think of it. It'd be pretty cool.
All right. So, I mean, Ghostwatch, it's going to sound very simple only because I feel like it was so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
You tell this movie to someone and they're like, oh, so it's like literally every found footage ghost movie. But yeah, it's essentially it starts like the BBC from like an actual studio like a TV studio.
Yeah.
With the host, was it Michael Parkinson?
Mm-hmm.
That guy. And he's like, "Oh, tonight you're gonna enter the haunted house."
And what's cool is he typically played like the skeptic in other things.
Yeah.
When it was just being his authentic personality. So they wrote the role kind of around him, where they're like,
yeah, because he was sort of the skeptic one throughout.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what the public had known of him, like up until that point.
Yeah, and the co-host is like this. She's like a psychologist and like paranormal researcher.
Yeah,
who has for the last 10 months been studying this family who has been haunted allegedly. So it's really just like kind of cutting back between the scene on the ground in Brighton and then in the TV studio. But the family that they're reporting on, it's a single mother with 2 kids. One girl's like a teenager, I don't know, like 15, 14.
That sounds about right.
The other one's much younger, maybe like 7 or 8. And they kind of hook you because right away they show you that scene of them, like they're like the girls are just about to go to bed, and then it like fast forwards in the middle of the night. There's like banging, and like books starts flying everywhere, like a lamp like pops.
Oh yeah,
you know, and then they're like, "This is just a normal night for these 2 little girlies," you know, like doing the typical like news kind of thing to them.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically they have this ghost in their house that is like a poltergeist. He likes to throw things around. They call him Pipes because the banging sounds like, I guess, when pipes are banging. Mm-hmm. Because there's old apartments. And they basically, this family has been trying to reach out to the news, and they've just made fun of them. They've tried reaching out for help, and no one's been able to help them. They don't have the means to move, so they're stuck in this haunted house. And then our Ghostwatch people are there to basically like spend a night in the house, and it's supposed to be like you as a viewer, you're spending the night with them as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And they even have outside, and they have like that. They have like another host out there who's just supposed to be outside, not in the house, but he's like interviewing people, like, "Oh, what do you think of the situation?" And then we have our main girl, Sarah, right? That was her name.
Yeah, Sarah Green. Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah Green. Her camera guy and a sound guy, they go in and they basically just spend the night with this family, and then ghost stuff happens. And I mean, like, everything happens exactly how you expect. Like, if you've seen like a Paranormal Activity or something along those lines, you've kind of seen it, but this does it, at least I think this does it very well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know me, I feel like we've talked about this before. I don't believe in ghosts. I'm a skeptic. I need like a ghost to literally like apparate in front of me and like shake my hand and tell me like I'm a ghost for me to believe like that's a ghost. Like, I need that, you know?
No, I'm right there with you, I think.
I will always find like rational conclusions to like anything, like, oh, it's just the wind, that was just blah blah blah. So I typically, when it comes to ghost stuff like this, I'm not really a fan. It has to be very interesting for me to like it. Stuff like, I mean, like, we both adore Lake Mungo.
Yeah,
that's a great example of one. I guess you could call Skinamarink.
Yeah,
that
I would say
I guess is a ghost thing. It has to have like a really interesting direction. And I will say, if Ghostwatch, if it didn't have this sort of late night news aesthetic to it and spin, I don't think it would have been as interesting for me.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of really cool stuff with that, where they have people call in, and I say call in like air quotes because it was like clearly like acted and pre-recorded. So like it feels like people you're like watching with you and calling in, and they have like the desk of like 8 people on the telephones, and they're like, "Oh, our lines are open. You can call and share your ghost stories." You know.
Yeah, I get you.
And they would have like old ladies like call in like, "Oh, you know, my house was haunted by a ghost. He spilled on my tea." Just stuff like that.
That was part of it. That part of it, gave it a lot of charm for me and made it like kind of seem like real, more real than it would normally. Was they're not always like every call isn't always like a hit where it's like, oh, it's definitely a ghost. Some of them just sound like drunk people.
Like like that one guy is just like, "My cereal fell off the sofa" or something like that.
Yeah.
And it does add like a bit more of a believability because here's the thing. You watch any live thing, doesn't matter if it's like a live performance, a live stream, nothing goes right. You know, like there's always one thing that goes wrong. And I mean, there were like, this is done very well. It's done very believable. But you do have to definitely put yourself in the perspective of you're watching this as you're someone in 1992. So the concept of found footage is already, it's not normal.
Right, yeah.
It's not a normal genre. Very few movies have done it. Like Blair Witch didn't come out till 99.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, right? Like this, I mean, there's a ton of arguing of what's the original found footage, you know, movie. Blair Witch was just the one to popularize it, but this was one of the early ones.
Right, yeah.
So the concept of a fictional story being framed as real is out of the world at this point. Like, you wouldn't think, you know, stack that on, like you said, the credibility of BBC. There's no reason if you're a British bloke in 1992 watching this, like you wouldn't think anything of it. You wouldn't think this is fake. You wouldn't think you'd be being duped.
Oh no! And one thing I want to mention that happens at the very beginning of the, I thought it was kind of weird when I first watched it, but remember when they have the credits for like 2 seconds at the very beginning?
Yeah,
where it's like just like a quick flash of like names like written by like. Apparently, they were asked to put that in 2 days before it was supposed to air.
So people knew.
Yeah, so people like weren't like didn't think it was like too real. The BBC like forced
honestly,
them to put in.
I saw that and I didn't even think about that.
No.
I just like glanced over. It's like, oh, okay. But maybe that's because we went in knowing we're watching a movie.
Yeah, I think that's
with that
that's
kind of premise.
Is. Yeah.
But I mean, I'll say that I really liked it.
Yeah.
It held my attention. I thought it was really good. Like, all the characters were really interesting. The ghost itself was very cool. The scares were pretty cool, pretty original.
Yeah, it definitely made my hair stand up multiple times. Like, there was a lot of good stuff. Especially
towards the end.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
It's very creative, and it's just crazy that something like that could have come out in that time period.
There's just so many stuff, like, technically, and just like the idea of it that was so ahead of its time. It's one of those situations of like, when you're creating this art, like, do you think of the repercussions it will have? You know?
Yeah.
Because you know, it was just the creator, the director, all these people going like, oh, this is such a good idea, such a good idea, such a good idea. And even BBC was like, yeah, it's such a good idea. But it's so new, they couldn't predict the outcome. You know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting.
Now movies are just like, this movie will make you shit your pants. You know? Where they're like telling you like, oh, it's going to be crazy. This didn't even like tell you. They were just like, it's Halloween nights, and like he kind of warns you like, oh, I'm gonna warn you, it's a bit disturbing. Like, what you're gonna see, it might be scary. But you're not thinking like from the idea that you think this is all real, and you're like watching people die possibly real time. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's just great. I imagine, like, I already was scared of ghost hunting shows as a kid where nothing happens, basically.
Yeah.
If I saw this on fucking TV when I was like 10, That would have given me nightmares for weeks, I think. Like,
And that's exactly what happened to 11 million British children.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I need to talk about one thing.
Yeah.
The glory hole.
Oh god.
Okay. So they kept calling the specific door in their townhouse. Is a townhouse? Yeah, a glory hole.
Yeah.
And that they say that's where Pipes lives.
I did
I'm
think
like,
that was weird.
I'm like, what the fuck is like they're not they don't have a glory hole in their house, do they? There's children here, you know? So I looked it up because I figured it was just British slang, you know? And it is. And basically all glory hole means is just a hole in the wall.
Oh.
That's all it means. So like what we would call a crawl space, they would call a glory hole.
Really?
I don't know now if they do that, because I think now that word has a very different meaning.
Is it just like a glory hole sexualized just in America then?
I'm pretty sure there's glory holes everywhere.
Oh, okay.
And I'm about to get into that. So when I was researching this, I'll just tell you, I got a little sidetracked.
Okay.
I found myself down the Wikipedia rabbit hole looking at the history of glory holes.
Oh god.
So the first glory hole was actually made in Britain in the 1700s.
Oh, okay.
So look at that.
Wow.
Good job, guys. You know? And now I'm going to turn around to make it really sad. It was invented because being gay was illegal.
Oh, no, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Wait, so
yeah.
they were using it to like have gay sex or something?
Basically, the idea was very similar today. They were mostly in bathrooms, where you could go, stick your little knob through it, and a man on the other side would use it however he pleased.
Oh god.
And you would be on your way.
Okay.
That way, it wasn't like seeing like, oh, do you see Charles and George go home together last night after they swept the donkey shit?
Uh-oh. So it was a way of them discreetly getting their rocks off.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Where they wouldn't get persecuted.
That's pretty
and
sad.
Allegedly, maybe a couple politicians and royals used them as well.
Oh my god.
Because they didn't want people in the public eye to know.
Now that's scary.
So yeah, there's your history of glory holes. The history of glory holes just gets darker from there. It's just,
I bet. Yeah. Truck stops and, STDs.
Yeah. Truck stop guzzlers. Yeah.
I was wondering that though. I was like, why are they calling it the glory hole?
Yeah.
It's just a basement
like they say it a
door.
lot.
Yeah.
Like the little girl's like, oh, Pipe lives down in the glory hole. And I was like, the fuck does that mean? How does she know what that is?
Yeah.
I was genuinely concerned. So I kind of figured that was the case.
Yeah.
So another segment, like we said on the show, to kind of add to the sort of live feel is that people would call in, and they would have even like in-person interviews with like people that would tell their own ghost stories.
Oh yeah.
Some of them were a bit more interesting than others, but one I wanted to talk about was the demon that spit on this man. Because I thought this one was very funny.
It was. No. That was the most entertaining one.
I don't know if it was written like that. But it's just like, it's like this story of this guy he was like eating, right? And like he just saw a spit fly into his food. And which I don't understand, like, where does it come from? You know what I mean?
Yeah, did you just see a drop in there or something?
Yeah. And it was funny because he's like, that's gross. I'm not going to finish my food. like he sounded more like mildly pissed off. And then he says like it like would like spit on like his shoe. So he was like, hey, like he like said out loud, hey Ghost, I'm not dealing with this bullshit anymore. You're gonna stop spitting on me and my food. And then the next day, the ghost retaliates by shitting on his walls in the bathroom. And what the part I think is most funny about this story is the way he describes it. Like, he's not amazed by the fact that poop and excrement is just appearing before him. He's more
like
just
annoyed.
pissed off that he has to clean it up.
Right.
Like, he's like, I had to wipe that off my knob with my bare hands. Disgusting. It's
And
not
it makes
like,
it all the more funnier that he's doing it in like a really comical sounding British accent.
Yeah, like you can tell he was like the humor one.
I feel like you're right. Yeah, I feel like it was supposed to be kind of funny.
Like, we need a lighthearted one in here.
Yeah.
And then, okay, let's cut back to the girl that's getting physically abused.
Right.
So that stuff like that, little antidotes made it feel very real, which I think increased the effectiveness.
Yeah, and the another thing I wanted to mention as well is the acting in general is also pretty
it's very good.
Yeah, it's like there's some parts in there that don't kind of ring true in their performances, but like they all do a really good job, surprisingly, of like being able to sell it. And I think in something like
those
this,
little
that's
girls,
like really
too.
important. Oh my god, yeah, the little girls were
so
great.
good.
Yeah, they were great.
Especially when the one is like possessed.
Oh my god!
I was like, oh my god.
And she's like behind that couch, like in the corner.
Yeah.
That was a scary image.
Yeah, like incredible.
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay, so like we're not, British people from 1992 watching BBC on Halloween night. We're 20-something-year-old men in the Midwest who watch movies a lot.
Yes.
So when we're watching stuff, for me, while it is very effective, there were some parts where I was like, okay, things are going a bit too well for this to be a live thing.
Oh yeah.
Some of the shots they got, I was like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
Like the framing is too good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely felt that way because I don't know if I mentioned this before on the live on this show before, but like I used to work in a live news show for 3 years.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
you're probably watching this and you're probably like,
yeah.
Oh, that guy's not holding the dingle bop right.
Well, what really got me when we're talking about realness to a live program with live shots like that is there is usually a significant delay between what's happening in the studio and what the people in the field can actually hear. So like you'll be talking and it'll be like 3 or 4 seconds later that they can actually hear you finish your sentence. So like it's possible that because like in this they were like instantly picking up from one another, right?
Yeah, they're like the studio and the people on the ground were having basically a conversation. Right.
Yeah, it was like there's no delay at all. And I'm like, especially back then, there was not the technology to be that quick with transmitting video and audio that quickly. Because even now, to do that, it's super expensive. You have to use like satellites to be able to do that. And we used to do that when we were getting live shots from ABC headquarters, where we get people calling in because they had the technology to do it, but it would cost so much money to do it per second. You had to like turn it off the moment you were done. Yeah, because like you did not want to break the bank by leaving that on accidentally. So yeah, it's like that was one thing that was really breaking the immersion for me. And then you're right, things were just a little too perfect.
Maybe the Ghostwatch people, they broke bank for that.
It's possible.
They knew they were. You know what? All right, Brad, buckle up for this one. The ghosts were on a different frequency and they were helping out.
Oh my god, they were
Pipes
getting
wanted
it.
his story told. So he was giving their little antennas a little boost. He was trying to he was using them to contact like Slimer.
Oh, from Ghostbusters.
And Muncher.
Muncher, yeah, I love Muncher. He's awesome.
Why wasn't Muncher in this? This movie would have been better if it had Muncher.
That is so true. I wanted him to eat someone alive.
Like, oh, this ghost, this fat, disgusting creature's been kicking in my door and eating all my crumpets. I don't know. I don't know what British people eat. Like, he ate my eel pie. my
fish and
fish
chips
pie.
Yeah,
my fish and chips. Fish and chips is like the go-to.
It is, yeah. That's too obvious, I feel like.
It's too obvious. British people like everything in a pie.
That is,
like
I've
pot
noticed
pie.
that, yeah.
Like, they're like, let's just take this, like, rancid food and just put it in a crust. You know?
Right.
What they needed was Paul Hollywood there.
Oh, is that the Great British Bake Off guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
He would have walked into that kitchen and he would have been like, oh, yeah, it's a bit too cold in here. Think you got a ghost. I could never make a creme pat in this kitchen. You've also got ghost cum on the fridge.
On the fridge.
Were you having a little pissing fit with it? I think it came on the fridge.
You gotta use that for your ingredient.
Yeah. You can't be getting ghost cum in your ingredients if you're gonna bake a good pie.
It's wasteful.
You gotta just spoon up all that ghost cum. Turn it into a nice meringue.
Oh, like we said, we're so sorry, British people. This is so stereotypical and inaccurate, I feel like.
No, it's perfectly accurate. You're telling me Paul Hollywood would make a meringue pie out of ghost cum?
You know, you're right. I guess I don't know him like at all. So
yeah, you gotta torch the tips. It gets the ectoplasm taste. Ghost cum's got a high acidic count. Cuts right through the tartness of your raspberries.
Oh my god.
That's awesome. All right,
It's too good.
Turn it back into serious mode. All right. When I get talking about cum, I don't stop. That's a problem.
Yeah, we just never stop. We've made a lot of cum asides on this show, unfortunately.
Well, and the thing is, it works with ghosts. Because you're telling me in Ghostbusters, like, that wasn't supposed to be cum?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
there was already that ghost blowjob scene in that movie.
Yeah, so, you know, let us have it. All right? But one interesting thing that I do want to point out that I think it also adds to the effectiveness, and it kind of plays to, like, kind of predicting how the viewers are perceiving it or are going to. Because honestly, I think this whole thing is it's a shot in the dark, because they didn't know how this was going to be perceived, you know? Like, if no one bought on early on that this was live, it would have been a laughing stock, right?
Yeah.
Like, people would have been like when they were doing cooler stuff like this, people were like, oh, this is so fake. So it's kind of like lucky that it worked out for them. Granted, it was very effective, but they would do one thing to help the effectiveness. There's one part I thought was really neat that kind of toys with the audience, is when that one caller calls in and she's like, hey, in this frame, I thought I saw a man.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And she's like, he's like a bald, he's wearing like a black dress, his like black eyes. And so they're like, okay, like we'll review the footage and, you know, get back to you. And we saw that footage earlier and it was clear there was no man in the curtains, right?
Yeah.
But they show it again, and there clearly is. And it's not like just a dude standing there. It's like clearly like a shape almost.
Yeah, they do it really well where it almost kind of blends in with the curtain behind him.
Yeah. And then like the host, they're like, "Oh, I don't see it. I don't know what that lady's talking about." She's like, I reviewed this footage for hours. I didn't see anything."
Mm-hmm.
And then when they show it to you later, they took out that guy.
Yeah, again. Yeah.
Again. So it kind of tricks you. Like, you as a viewer going like, "Oh, I see it." And then they show you like, "Did I see it?"
Right?
It's really interesting.
Yeah,
it's like a cool little trick.
It's a creative way to like kind of scare you and make you like not trust yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Where you're just like, did I just see that? It's like, and it's like just so cool. That was the scene I heard about, where I was like, that just sounds like a really creative, like kind of cool way to creep you out, and that kind of got me in on this, wanting to watch it, because it's just really, really, really creative and well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, there's so much stuff, like, it's already like a really good idea, and they just add on like little kernels like this that just make it great.
One other moment
Yeah.
that really kind of spooked me because it made my hair stand up is when they're listening. First, they're listening to that tape recording of like an alleged ghost voice in the house.
Yeah.
And that like the way the voice is talking is already really creepy, right? Mm-hmm. And then all the studio lights kind of like go dark, and it like does this like really slow zoom up pan to like them like in front of this tape recording on this table, and then it cuts to the lady, and then in the background, very, very ever so slowly, you see like this figure emerge from like the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's like so slow and like so creepy looking. Like you're not even sure if it's a figure at first, and then he gets closer and you're like, oh shit, that is somebody. And it like just moves in like kind of an inhuman way that like really just like makes you like, it just creeps you out.
Very similar to like Lake Mungo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, exactly like that. Yeah.
That speaking of things that made us poopy our pants, I want to talk about when they open up that glory hole.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't find some like 60-year-old grandpa's cock at the other side. Although that might have been just as scary. But when they open it, like they don't open it fully, but from the angle you have, all you really see is like a shoulder and like half a face. Mm-hmm. And it's clearly not like human. It's like very pale.
Yeah.
Like pale and dark at the same time. But it's very scary.
Oh god, yeah. You see it just for a brief moment, but it just like, oh, you're like, what the fuck did I just see that? Like, was that just a figure in there?
It goes on a fear of mine. I don't know about you, but I don't really like windows open at night ever since I was a kid.
Oh, me too.
Same with like opening doors into dark rooms if it's nighttime, because I'm always scared of what if I open it and there's just like a man standing there on the other side.
Right?
Completely irrational.
Yeah.
But if I was in that house in Brighton in 1992, that fear would be reality. Mm-hmm. Because that's what happened. I just don't have a glory hole in my house. Which, now I'm going to start calling that glory holes.
That's a good term. I think
we don't have those in the U.S. See, in Britain, they have ghosts in their glory holes. We just have like 32 dead boys in ours. That a clown
under
keeps in there.
someone's house. Yeah.
Yeah, under someone's house. That's what we do with our glory holes. Which, you know, John Wayne Gacy had some kind of makeshift glory hole.
Ugh.
In his house.
A sexual one?
Is there another kind? No, yeah, he like pulls it like one of the little horns, like clown horns. He puts his hand through, he's like, honk the horn.
Oh god.
He puts like the little red nose through.
And they go up to honk the horn, but then he moves that out of the way really quickly and puts his penis there.
Yeah, they just grab his balls. And he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm picturing, like, you know, in Halloween when Michael's like banging on the stall door.
Yeah,
like
it's like that.
smashing on his head. Oh yeah, it's really bad because children died.
Bad.
But
yeah, it's bad.
but glory holes are funny. That's the moral of the story here.
They are. It's a new word for our vocabulary. A new use for it.
And that we're gonna get a lot of looks for using.
Probably.
Like what? They said it on the BBC special in 1992, Ghostwatch. Can't say it now. I mean, I personally don't want to get too much into spoiler territory because I do think it is a very interesting story.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I think the scares are very original, and I think they're very fun. And they had this one element to it that I kind of liked was there was kind of this people saying like is this right for these reporters to be like in this family in like a very vulnerable time? Mm-hmm. Because they separate the mom from the girls. The mom's in like her own little interviewing booth.
Yeah.
And the girls are clearly like scared shitless and they just want their mom.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's a lot of tension there, and it's very cool like during the scene when one of the girls gets, I don't know what's happening to her, but she's like abused and she's clearly not responding. And it feels like the Sarah character is like really likable.
She is,
you
know? She gets along really well with the girls, for sure.
Yeah, and she doesn't do what like everyone is like, oh, this is great, get the footage. She's like, guys, let's leave. Like, they need space.
Right.
Let's go get water. Let's get a towel for her. I'm like, oh, that's like really nice. Mm-hmm. So it's cool that they made such a news character that wasn't the typical like, oh, this is gonna get so much money. So a real Lou Bloom, you know?
Oh my god, yeah. They could have easily gone that route. I'm kind of glad they didn't based on what ends up happening.
Yeah. Because you don't want anything bad to happen to anyone.
No. Yeah, because they definitely feel like real people.
Maybe that guy outside that would like randomly say stuff.
Oh god, yeah, that guy was kind of annoying.
Yeah, he was kind of weird. He would just randomly break out into noises. He's like, hey guys, we're in front of this haunted house that has been tormenting this family for 10 years. Their children are sick. They don't get any sleep. They're horribly depressed. Here's my Michael Jackson impression. And he would just like start making noises.
And he was one of the like people who was just playing like himself in the special.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe that was like his personality on like some sitcom. So they're like, oh, you got to act like you are on that sitcom.
Yeah, be funny.
Yeah.
Go to make the children laugh.
Go make them laugh.
You know what? They needed Mia Goth to play one of the little girls.
Oh my god. Like adult
Like-
Mia Goth.
Adult Mia Goth as the little one, as like the 7-year-old.
On her knees. Like
Yeah,
just
she's like,
in her normal voice.
Pipes, are you here? Want to play with my dollies, Pipes?
Oh my god.
I love Mia Goth, but I don't believe that's her real voice.
It seems like she's hamming it up a little bit. She doesn't even have to, I feel like. People just like her anyway, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, she's a very interesting character, so I guess it fits. Like, if anyone's gonna have an interesting voice, I guess it should be her.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
Because, like, imagine if just, like, a 5'8", normal-looking blonde woman had that voice. I think that would be scarier.
Yeah, no, you think
know?
she's a
if
little
she sounded
crazy.
like a little Victorian doll. I wouldn't like that.
I love how every time you describe her voice, it's always a different term. And it's always really funny.
Mia Goth's voice?
Yeah, Mia Goth's voice, yeah.
Seriously, it sounds like a little street urchin in the 1700s or something. It's like, please, mister. Just a little nick of your bread. That's all I ask. Like, it's like really high pitched and it's like fake. I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
It just
does
sounds
fake.
like someone doing a bad impression of like a little child. A little British child.
Sounds like if we were trying to do an impression of a British child. All right?
Yes. I just sound like Mia Goth. I don't even try to sound like a child. I just go, what does Mia Goth sound like? Okay. And one thing I think is funny, that you never hear her like actual voice in any movie.
Oh, yeah, she pretty much talks like that in everything, doesn't she?
Like, she just talks normal.
Yeah.
So like, the director's like, yeah, your voice? None of that. Not having that. Even like an Emma, where like the cast is like all British. She doesn't have that like high
Oh, really?
pitched voice. They tone it down a bit, yeah.
That's the one movie I would think she would do that in.
And it would work, because she is like a little Victorian doll.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to. It would be so funny if like Infinity Pool she had that.
Oh
She's
my
like,
god.
Okay, Mr. Skarsgård, I'm gonna tug on your cock now.
Did you end up seeing that? I haven't seen
No,
that
I
yet.
still haven't.
Oh. I want to know if it's good or not, so if it's worth my time.
We'll find out. I'll watch it eventually. The second it hits whatever streaming, I'm watching it.
Yeah, it looked interesting.
I want to see Skarsgård naked butt again,
Hell yeah, brother.
like we did in Northman.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. Hell yeah. I think Ghostwatch could have a Northman type ending, and I think it would have improved.
That's true. Yeah, the Michael Parkinson guy is just naked.
Yeah, they fight and he challenges Pipes to a volcano fight.
Oh my god. No, it's on the scaffolding in the studio, like up in the lights, above the lights.
The light, it's like almost dark. There's just like the flickering of the lights.
Yeah.
Everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
One thing I did read that was very funny, with the ending of the show, while that was going on, his agency's phones were blowing up. Because
I heard
people
about
thought
that.
he was actually in danger.
Yeah.
And apparently when that was going on, the ending, the BBC was getting so many calls it actually crashed their system, their like calling system.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was so a lot of people described trying to call because they were like either mad because they knew it was fake and they were like mad at the BBC for trying to pretend it was real, or they were calling to like what the fuck was that? But like people would be calling, it'd be like blocked up, like the switchboards would be completely just shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like 30,000 people called, something like that. That was the
it was a
estimated
huge
amount.
number.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I know it said 11. I think it was like 11.7 million people were watching it.
Damn,
Which
really?
is
That many?
Huge numbers.
Holy
yeah.
shit.
I mean, when you think about it, like back then, I mean, there was more television channels, but like specifically, like not anymore. People do like Halloween night stuff, they just show the same old movies.
Right, yeah.
Where like rarely, I feel like when someone's doing an event like that, you want to tune in, especially if it's on BBC, like the one channel British people watch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I was saying, it's like an institution. It still is, really, BBC.
Yeah.
It's like everyone knows about it. Everyone has watched it at some point. And yeah, back then it was like, I think of like the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, obviously that's way older, but like,
But I mean, and even
millions of
now,
people.
there's like so many subcategories of like BBC as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I like Mr. Bean a lot. He was my favorite.
Was he a BBC show?
I don't know. I don't care. It was cool. I still have, to this day, I have every episode on DVD. Because I liked him that much. He was funny. They should have had Mr. Bean solve the pipe case. He just goes in there and
my
destroys
God.
their home.
A Mr. Bean Ghostwatch crossover.
Yeah, it's just him. They're like, all right, Mr. Bean, this EMF reader is worth $10,000. And he just immediately drops it. He's like, oh.
Oh, God.
That'd be cool. And then, like, when the ghost comes, like, he gets scared, too, with the children. They're like, where'd Mr.
God.
Bean go? He's
Yeah.
supposed to be investigating. And he's, like, curled up in the corner with the little girls.
Yeah. That is actually something that Mr. Bean would do. I could see him easily doing that.
Yeah. They're like, Mr. Bean, you have to go into the glory hole. And then he, like, perks up. He's like, what? The glory hole? The only time you hear him talk.
Yeah, right.
It's like, show me where the glory hole is.
Oh god.
I can get some ghost sloppy.
Hell yeah, brother. That ectoplasm, it adds a little bit of lube. Know what I'm saying, brother? Natural lubricant.
It burns, but it burns in all the right places. I like the idea of like Mr. Bean having like a 90s action hero voice. He's like Duke Nukem.
Oh, that's terrible.
So, one thing I do think is really cool with Ghostwatch is they still somewhat do it. I think they did this on their 20-year anniversary, but they started this thing called the National Seance. Where pretty much, I think on the 20th anniversary, the creators did a live stream, and pretty much everyone starts the movie at 9:25 p.m. on Halloween night.
Really? That's awesome.
So that way everyone's watching it at the same time, and they would have lines open that you could call and report like anything mysterious happening while you're watching it.
That's really cool. Wow.
It is very cool. I don't know if they still do it. Mm-hmm. But they said it's been going on, and they did it last year in 2021. It's just like a fun thing, I guess the fans do. Mm-hmm. And like people will live tweet on Twitter, like, "Whoa, I'm watching Ghostwatch. It's 9:37, and a plate just fell in my kitchen." You know,
my bag of chips fell over off the couch.
Yeah, my bag of munches. I don't know what they call chips. I just, whenever I like think of like what a British person calls it, I think of like, what would a child call this thing? You know? Like if a child saw an item but like didn't know the word for it, what would they call it? That's what I just think British people call things.
Oh my god. What would Mia Goth call it? Think of it in Mia Goth's voice. No, I'm just saying, like, if you're ever wondering what a British person would call it, you just say, what would Mia Goth call this thing?
What would Mia Goth call it? Yeah.
Oh, God.
But yeah, that's cool. I think that's a really cool thing that they still do.
That is cool.
It does this thing that I think is really interesting, and this is actually what a lot of these ghost shows use. Mm-hmm. I forgot what the smart technical term is. But basically, if your brain already has in its head that it's looking for something, whether that's a feeling, an emotion, something, it's searching for something, it will find it. Mm-hmm. There was this really interesting app that was going on around like the COVID times. And basically it used like geolocation, where you would pick like two words. So you would pick maybe like dark and I don't know, something like dangerous or something, like scary words, you know? Mm-hmm. And it would triangulate and find a location that was like within a certain mile radius you set. And the idea is you would go there, and so many people would like record what they saw when they went to that location. Some stuff was like, oh, they found like it was all these dolls, you know, or these people would like walk in like the forest at night and they hear like a weird noise or something.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It's cool, but like the app itself is like bullshit. Like it literally just
picks random.
It's random, but the thing is, what it uses is it puts those words in their brain. So if they're like thinking of words like, I don't know, like creepy and murderous, you know, they're already, those are in their brain. So when you're at said place, no matter what it is, you'll find it. Like your brain will find something to fit that keyword no matter what. And I feel like that's like what a lot of those ghost shows do. Where they'll show you, like they'll prep you ahead of time, like this is what you're gonna see, and then they'll show you an image, and it's probably not there. Your brain is just like, oh yeah, I see it. Only because Zach Baggins told you that there was a figure there that was totally a ghost.
I feel like Skinamarink harnesses that.
Yes,
that phenomenon pretty well.
Because you're terrified and you're looking at shots of hallways.
Yeah, just like black with like a noise filter over top of it, so that makes things look like they're moving when they're not. And like you're like, did I just see something poke out of the darkness over there? It's like,
right.
It's a very creative use of that in that movie.
Well, let's get into how the British people reacted.
Yeah.
Brad, what did they think of Skinamarink? Did they love it? Did they hate it?
Skinamarink.
Yeah, what did the British think of Skinamarink?
They unanimously loved it. I'll say that.
Oh,
right now.
okay. They were like, "Oi, bit scary, isn't it? I reckon I could kill that bloke. That Skinamarink tried to Skinamarink me. Skinamarink him right back."
Skinamarink does kind of sound like a British word for some reason.
It does, yeah. Oh, I Skinamarinked him out at the pub last night.
Oh god.
It sounds like to trick someone.
It does. Yeah, no, it definitely does. It sounds like a fucking very whimsical way of saying I tricked someone.
Yeah, like a word SpongeBob would use.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with the controversy and reaction to this was not good the moment it aired. Obviously, we were saying before, calls were coming into the BBC like crazy. It was their switchboards were jammed up. They could literally not take any more calls. And immediately after that, the BBC had to put out a statement saying, "Oh, that was not real. Okay, everything is fine. Like, there's not actual ghost shit happening. Like, everybody in that special is okay." And basically, it was them. They BBC, the higher ups, never anticipated this becoming a cultural phenomenon like it became.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could predict that. It was all new.
Right. And the way the director described it in a documentary I watched was she was always in close contact with him and with one of the producers at BBC, and he was in contact with the higher ups a lot. And in the months preceding us, he always told them like, "Hey, we're doing this. We're like trying to make it look like it's real. Like, is that okay?" And they always said yes. But that guy was a successful producer at the time, like more successful than the rest of them. So they all just kind of like, "Oh yeah, you got it, whatever." Like, yeah,
went along with it.
We know your show's going to be successful, sort of thing. So I think they immediately were doing damage control because so many parents were calling in complaining like their kids were traumatized.
Yeah,
I've read and heard a lot of stories of people where their like kids are like throwing up because they're so like anxious and scared. And even the worst part of it, which is probably the most depressing part of this whole story, was that a child actually committed suicide because they were so scared about what they saw. They thought ghosts were real.
Yeah.
And that is really just like a kind of tragic. And I think, it kind of brings in the conversation of how responsible are you as an artist to the work you put out there and how you put it out. Like, how responsible can they be held for like how people perceive it, how people react to it? I think that's always been kind of a something at the forefront of the conversation, especially of violence in media. It's constantly, I feel like every year there's a new movie that people are
there's some movie
about.
that people are afraid that Redditors are gonna misinterpret and then shoot up a school.
Right, yeah.
Or something.
No, exactly. Joker, I feel like, was the last big one that was like that.
Joker was the big one. I feel like we didn't really have that big of one last year.
No, not really. There's always like those like the vocal minority of people that like fucking talk about John Wick. I feel like every time one of those comes out,
too much violence.
Yeah, which is annoying.
But John Wick doesn't have any bad ideologies to it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
but from my understanding, is that BBC was very quick to shift the blame onto anyone but themselves.
Right, yeah.
Especially when it, like, I read the parents of that boy that killed himself. They basically went to BBC saying, like, they're open. They fully blame BBC for it. And BBC basically said, we are going to sue you.
Really? That's horrible.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
The parents literally, there was some line the dad said where he's like, we would like to take action, but we can't afford it. And we were told that if we speak out, they will sue us, and we can't afford that either.
Oh my God. That's so terrible.
And the boy, he actually, like, he wasn't a kid. He just had a learning disability. He was like 18.
Oh, really? That old?
But the parents said he had a mental age of 13.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But apparently he was like very nice. He had like a job. Apparently he had a really good job. He had a girlfriend and everything. Like his wife was like perfect. Like he's doing really good for someone like with a disability.
That's such a shame.
Yeah, but that just shook him so hard that he couldn't basically live in the world with the idea that there were like ghosts because he thought it was real. And I don't know, do you read like his note?
I heard a little bit of it, I think, yeah, where he's basically saying like if ghosts are real, then you shouldn't worry about me because I'm going to be one.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it's like if ghosts are really real, then don't worry because I will be one too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, very sad.
Right. And I'm of the opinion that definitely I think this is a really nice work of art, this special, but I think that BBC could have done a much better job of letting people know beforehand, like, hey, this is a drama, like, this is not real.
Yeah, their defense was that, you know how, like, here on network television, like, if it's past, I think for us it's like 8:00 p.m., like, they can show, like, the naughtier stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, they can say fuck, they can show boobs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And because it aired at like 9:30 or 9:25 or whatever, I guess that was BBC's like, no kids watching this right now. Like that was their like Adult Swim time, you know?
I see. Okay.
So that was one argument they had.
Mm-hmm.
Where they were like, no, well, like kids shouldn't even been watching this anyways, you know? But that's like saying that you rate a movie R and no kid is gonna watch it, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I feel like with something like this, where like you're like portraying it in a way that's supposed to make the viewer think it's real. You need to be even more responsible than you would be for like even an R-rated film. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to be more on the ball about warning people about it, you know? Because as it is, it just kind of came out of nowhere. People probably heard about it in like TV guides at the time. There was like we said, there's nothing like the internet where you could just look things up. It's like they just saw it happening and they thought it was like a Hospital Watch or Crime Watch.
Other than those, like you said, those credits in the beginning, they would have had no reason to believe otherwise.
Right, and even I've seen a lot of reality shows like that who still have writing credits. Yeah, when they're meant to be real. So it's like
they start with like movies. They'll start with this is like what you're watching is fiction. Blah 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 blah.
Yes, yeah. Something like that at the beginning would have gone a long way, I think. You know. But even still, you could miss the beginning. I know a lot of people, I've read stories from them about seeing it, said they missed the beginning credits portion of it, so they never saw the written by thing. They just came in like... just
jumped in.
Yeah, they came in 5 minutes and they saw like Michael Parkinson and they were like, oh, hey, I know this guy. Like, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's just overall very tragic, and like it caused the BBC to just bury Ghostwatch in general. Like it's only aired on TV that one time. And I only got one physical release, and it was like a very limited run. Yeah.
In like the late 2000s.
Right, yeah. They actually did they did a DVD and then they did a Blu-ray release in this past year, 2022.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And that's a really good release. Yeah. I would highly recommend it. Yeah. You know, it's very good.
But for you that are interested, you can watch it on Tubi. And it's uploaded to the Internet Archive as well.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you can pretty much watch it for free.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's easy to get the dark part of this Ghostwatch thing and just kind of consume it, and that no one, because I feel like I found it about Ghostwatch from what I call like YouTube sensationalism, like,
Right.
where it's like you see videos that are titled like the TV show that killed a child or something like that, and then like you're interested because of that, and you find out about it, but like they're never actually about the special itself. It's always like about the kid, and
Yeah, it's about the story behind it and what happened.
So I thought it would be really interesting to see like what exactly it was about, like because I never even seen clips from it really, and I think watching the documentary was really cool to see all the actors in it come together, and they even had some other filmmakers, like I've never seen this movie. I was gonna ask if you had seen it, but it's called Host. It's from 2020.
Oh, Host is good.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Host is like the only good COVID movie that happened. It's one of the few. And it takes a very, very saturated genre of, I don't know, I guess you would call it like internet horror.
Yeah.
Where like Unfriended and that kind of kind of steaming dump.
Yeah.
And like what if we took like a really interesting spin on it?
Okay.
I would highly recommend checking out Host. It's very good. It's on Shudder.
Yeah, it's they had the writer and director of Host on the documentary talking about Ghostwatch, and they were basically like describing how they ripped off Ghostwatch for a lot of the stuff in there. They said there's even a Ghostwatch Easter egg at one point.
Oh, really?
Like a character, they have to put in a password, and the password is 10/31/92. Like the date that Ghostwatch aired originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they said that a lot, like some of the scenes in it are like the camera work and everything is like directly inspired by some of the house stuff when they go in the basement in Ghostwatch. And they were just saying like, it's how it's inspired them and their filmmaking like so much.
Host, just like Ghostwatch, was a little bit like it was doing new stuff. Because there's one scare in Host that I think is really smart, and it's a girl like she's already like well aware that like something's in the house with her, and she like the power's out and she's going through like her apartment with like the camera like facing like her, so she's like holding her laptop, and she's like showing the room to see if anyone else can see anything, and she has like a filter activated. And it's like a mannequin mask filter, and it just picks up something in the room.
That's
and it's
a good
fucking
idea.
Terrifying.
That's awesome. I want to watch this now.
Even though there's like nothing there, so it's just like a floating face filter, and it's like so simple. But imagine your grandpa watching that. He wouldn't understand.
No, yeah, it's way too high level technology for.
He'd be like, "What is that? Is that Ghost? Is that little girl a ghost?" So, yeah, Host, good movie.
Yeah, and I want to watch it now. Maybe we'll review it at some point because I would love to watch that.
I would love to do like internet type, like I don't know what the exact genre is, the computer horror genre. I think that'd be very fun to do.
I want to watch Unfriended just because I saw that trailer so many fucking times in the theater.
Oh my god! Then we got to watch Unfriended 2.
Oh god, there's a second one.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's
it
terrible.
was called something stupid as well.
Unfriended TOO.
Unfriended 2. Oh no, it was just called Dark Web.
Oh, that's boring.
Like they went to the dark web.
Oh shit, that's scary. I don't like dark web.
Yeah, they bought some snuff. They watched. It's just the girl watching Obey the Walrus.
Oh my god, I forgot about that video.
Yeah, it's just them watching like what was scary on YouTube in 2009. She watches like "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared."
Right.
How it was kind of ahead of its time and inspired a lot. There's Watching this now, I can see a lot of movies that took from it, like Host is one of them.
Yeah.
Lake Mungo especially.
Yeah.
Because Lake Mungo sells itself as like a real documentary.
Yeah.
And you see the most horrific shit happen.
Yeah. It's just it's like viscerally terrifying. And I think the creators of Lake Mungo directly have said it's very inspired by Ghostwatch. Yeah, so with Paranormal Activity, when they made that, they were like, yeah, Ghostwatch is like a huge inspiration.
I'm curious about Blair Witch. Did they know about it?
Well, Blair Witch, I don't think they've ever explicitly said whether or not it's inspired by Ghostwatch.
I remember I watched that Shudder series. I think we both watched it, Cursed Films.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And in the Cannibal Holocaust episode, they interviewed the creator of Blair Witch. Mm-hmm. And they asked him, like, hey, have you seen Cannibal Holocaust? Is that where you got the found footage idea? And he was like, I didn't even hear about it till after we made the movie. But he said that he's like, if I had saw Cannibal Holocaust, I probably wouldn't have made Blair Witch.
Oh, interesting.
Because he's like, what they were making, they were like, this is original. And it was, to an extent.
Yeah.
But what Blair Witch did really well was like the whole viral marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big part of that. Where like
they kind of created buzz, they created a fake story. Mm-hmm. So you were already like, oh, is this real? And then you're watching this movie and your brain kind of forgets it's a movie because you saw real life articles about this. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely think Blair Witch is like at least somewhat inspired by it, because I was thinking about, I added Blair Witch late into my list of movies that seem inspired by this, because I think one of the clear inspirations is the way they handle whatever the ghost is and how it's kind of mysterious. Because in Ghostwatch, they have like two different possible origins for this ghost.
Yeah, they bring up two.
Yeah, and you don't know which one it is exactly. And in Blair Witch, they do the exact same thing.
In the Blair Witch, they do so much stuff.
I thought the main ones were it could be a serial killer.
Yeah.
Or a literal witch. Like,
yeah, but
that's in the woods.
It was always that thing where like you would like it would put you in the corner.
Oh, okay.
That was like one consistent thing. And that's like in Ghostwatch, how they kind of put the pieces of the story together was all the callers seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is cool because it let the audience play along.
Yeah.
So you at home, you're like, oi, bruv, I've seen that black dressed bloke. You know? So like you were like, oh yeah, I'm with these guys. I'm with these callers. You know?
Right. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean, like it's it's very, and it's kind of a shame that it's been buried. The Ghostwatch in general, it's just like I feel like if more people knew about it, it would be much more celebrated. Because it's just it was like, yeah, we've said it multiple times already. It's so ahead of its time. Like it's crazy to me that people would even think to do that in that age of TV and the age of the pre-internet. It's like such a ballsy
crazy
thing.
Is the people that did this are like nowhere now.
Right, yeah, they're all,
you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Partly probably because of the controversy, and I don't think maybe BBC wanted to give them any more work. But you think like, oh, like now, like a new horror movie comes out, you're like, oh, we have a new voice in horror, you know, like I'm looking forward to seeing his stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're like, these guys just really didn't.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame.
I mean,
honestly.
because I looked at the guy's website, the Volk guy, and he's done like movies and wrote books since then. Mm-hmm. But nothing to the success of Ghostwatch.
Oh God, do you know what I read from him? At the end of the booklet that came with the Blu-ray release I got, he wrote like a sequel to Ghostwatch.
Oh, I heard about a sequel, but I didn't know what it was.
It is,
or if it ever came to fruition.
I didn't finish it because I didn't like it, but it was like, it was like him like trying to come up with ways that Ghostwatch could still be real. like if that really happened, where he's like, oh yeah, Michael Parkinson, he had to get years of therapy afterwards. He's okay now. I'm not joking. That's literally what it was.
He just doesn't talk about it because it brings up too many bad memories.
Yeah. No one. One of them was I was just like, this is so stupid, because they were talking about like the blonde Sarah girl, how she he was saying, oh, she really did disappear that night, but they got a look-alike to go out in public. I'm not joking. That's literally what he wrote. Yeah.
So BBC covered it up.
Yeah,
with a look-alike to replace her.
I know, and the whole premise of the story is that they want to do a Ghostwatch 2. And they, the Stephen Vogt guy is like, no, you can't do that. No.
He's the Lubis.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. Yeah, it's so dumb.
You can't let Pipes out. He's evil. No one can stop him. He's gonna haunt that flat in Brighton for the rest of his years. He's just waving a pistol around.
Oh my god. I would watch that movie in a heartbeat, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. Well, that's Ghostwatch, I guess.
Yep, that's Ghostwatch.
I think it's safe to say we both like it. Mm-hmm. Good job to everyone that made it. Fuck you, BBC.
The BBC.
Yeah. BBC, more like big brown crap.
Oh,
right?
Because they took a crap on this movie.
Yeah, because they really fumbled the bag on this one.
They took a crap on it, stomped on it, and then threw it in a garbage can and lit it on fire.
And a ghost spit and excreted excrement on it. Like the ghost in Ghostwatch.
I want to see a movie about that guy. If they're gonna make a Ghostwatch 2,
that guy.
Just make it about what that guy's experience.
I don't even want it to be about a ghost. I just want him in therapy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I was sitting on my fucking loo, and out of nowhere, this big brown turd just starts appearing. Out of nowhere, just thin bloody air. Starts smearing all over my door.
I
gotta touch that shit, you know?
It smeared it all over my Beatles album.
It turned my yellow submarine into the brown submarine. Got poop all over my vinyl. It sounded Australian there.
It did, yeah. That's okay.
The crocodile hunter fighting Pipes the ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the crocodile hunter, but it's like a ghost show. Like he's on Ghost Hunters.
That would be awesome.
Like, oi, we've got a big one today, mates.
Oh, God.
You hear that? You touched me? Was that you that touched me? It's just like him. He pulls up the the little camera, and there's just like a floating crocodile.
Oh my god!
Like an obscure shape of a crocodile.
Yeah. I wish I would have seen. I'm assuming you're talking about Crocodile Dundee.
What? No, dude. Steve Irwin.
Oh, Steve Irwin? Oh, okay.
Steve Irwin.
That's my bad. I forgot his show was called Crocodile Hunter.
Yeah, even though he doesn't hunt them.
Yeah.
But I assume Crocodile Rescuer doesn't sound that interesting of a show.
No.
Yeah, I like Steve Irwin.
He's
Steve
awesome.
Irwin and Mr. Bean were two childhood icons of mine.
Dude, Steve Irwin, he's got a hot wife.
That might be the funniest thing you ever said.
Oh my god.
We're ending this. We're ending this right now. Oh my god.
No.
Don't you dare speak ill of her. She was the love of his life.
No, I said she was hot.
I don't like that. Something about it I don't like. My God. All right. That was Ghostwatch. You like we said, you can watch it on Tubi for free. It's on Internet Archive for free. Maybe October 31st, you can join the National Seance.
Yeah.
And join in on Twitter or whatever they're doing this year. I don't know if they're still doing stuff, but it sounds like regardless, fans do it on Twitter anyways. So that might be fun to check out on Halloween.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, we're on YouTube, and if you're listening on YouTube, we're also on Spotify.
Hell yeah, brother. We're everywhere except Apple Music. I don't think we're on Apple.
Yeah, fuck you, Apple. I like how let's just curse out big corporations.
Yeah. Yeah. Burning bridges before we even have the chance to make them.
Yeah. That's what my therapist says I do.
Oh my God.
So. All right. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.